York City Hyrox is important to me because this is like a 1-year anniversary from when I first attempted this new kind of sport. I think it was something that I was just interested in a year ago, that I was like, you know what, like let me just try it. Like I don't really, like I know that it's a lot of running, I know that there's other stations and movements that you need to do, but like I wasn't really training for it. I was, coming off of a half marathon training program. So I wasn't really like Hyrox specifically like prepping. But I kind of am just like a type of person, like how I am just as a human, is just being okay as a beginner and just kind of getting thrown into the fire. Like I don't feel like I need to like have the right coach or like go through a program to go try to do something. Like I just feel like sometimes the best way to learn is just by doing and failing. And this year, 12 months from that first experience, I feel a lot more prepared mentally and physically, just understanding what this workout entails and how to have some level of success in it. I think if I look back at 12 months ago, I was truly a novice, and I still think I'm a beginner. Like I don't think I'm like excellent at the sport. I don't think I'm not obviously in the elite level yet, but it is a workout and a challenge that intrigues me. Nerves are natural. It means that you care. And for me, I think there's always a little bit of this like excited, nervous energy going into these big races or efforts. It's not going to be easy, and like that's why that nervous energy exists. But once the race starts, it starts to fade, and like that energy then needs to be utilized, hopefully in a positive way to execute the race. I think for me, like how I deal with it internally before the race starts is like I try my best to just lean into the fact that I get to do these things. Like it's not like I'm forced to do it. Like I'm actively volunteering myself to be like, yo, like I'm willing to go suffer. I'm willing to suffer for an hour, 24 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. And like in that sense, it's not like there's someone like with a gun to my head saying that you have to do this or you can't live. Like I should have more gratitude on the fact that I'm healthy and I have a body that is physically able to do these things. And I think about that more instead of being like, oh my God, like, dude, am I gonna hit this? Am I gonna do it? And if I'm like all that anxious anxiety that happens when you're pre-race. So I think that's really where my mind goes more. It's like, all right, like, yo, I get to do this. Like, yes, it's gonna suck in the present, but after, it's never as bad as it seems. Like once you cross the finish line at any of these events, you realize that like, yeah, it sucked in the moment, but like I'm alive. I feel good. I feel like New York City was a enjoyable trip. Definitely a better experience for me from a performance standpoint than a year ago. And I think in that sense, I'm satisfied with the effort. I think I could have done better. And I think any athlete's going to say that, right? It's like, there's obviously always room for improvement, yet being content at times is an important thing. So I competed on Friday, which I would say was probably less competition than on Saturday. I felt strong going into the race. I mean, we competed at nighttime in New York and the sun was kind of coming down, but going into that first run, I felt strong. I think I was maybe third or fourth place. Like I didn't want to like over exhaust myself early into the race. I think everyone's adrenaline's pumping when you're sitting in that start line, that start corral, and there's just a lot of adrenaline and testosterone in that corral, and it's very easy to be excited on the first run. But obviously, it's a big race. It's a long race. There's going to be a lot of other runs and stations in between that first effort. So for me, I just wanted to find my pace and run my own race, and then come into the skier and get anywhere as close as I can to a 4-minute effort on the skier for 1,000 meters. And I think I was at like 4:05, maybe like right around there. And I knew that that effort would be like tolerable for me. Like it's not a max effort. I wanted to be able to ski, but then still be able to run right after. And going into that run, I didn't feel that fatigued, which was good. I think the biggest thing with Hyrox is like managing your effort from the station and then going into the run. And obviously that's the whole point. It's like who can maintain their speed while still going through all these strength movements and cardio movements within Hyrox. And going then into the second station, which is the sled push, I felt strong. Like I thought the sled was moving fairly fast for me. Like I think I got 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the sled push, which was relatively a competitive time for the push. And the thing with New York this year, they actually made you do 6 down and backs instead of typically 4, just because the distance was a little bit shorter. So overall, I actually came into the sleds in second place, and I ended up leaving in first. And after that sled push, I was able to then find like a good groove. I felt like I was kind of running my own race. And at that point, I was in first, and I wasn't really racing against anyone else but myself. I think at that point, I was like, okay, this is a new position for me to be in. Like typically, anytime I've done Hyrox, I've never been leading, which when you're leading, you are the first to every station, which basically also means that like you're gonna get judged by the head judge and you're gonna get critiqued on your form. And that was a new spot for me to be at, especially, you know, only my third or fourth solo. But honestly, I felt like I handled it pretty well. Going after the sled push, I had a good run split again. I think it was in the 3:45 realm again. So like those first 3 kilometers were very consistent. If they were very consistent to execute a sub 60-minute Hyrox. And the goal in the Hyrox is that you maintain that running split in between all of the movements. I was really satisfied with how I felt after the sled push, because the sled push could be kind of daunting. Like your legs are kind of building up some lactic acid. They feel a little heavier. And I knew that the sled pull, which is the 4th movement now, was one of the weaker movements for me personally. And at that point, I was still in first, and I finished the sled pull, and I did it in decent time as well. I think I was maybe around 3.5 minutes, 3:45, something like that. And I felt pretty good going out of the sled pull. And I still had a decent lead, so I wasn't racing against anyone else. I was just racing against myself, my own effort, and then the time. And I think after the sled pull, I also hit like a 350K. So the first 4Ks were pretty dialed. I felt strong. I didn't really feel any muscle cramps at this point yet. My body and my mental was in a good place. Like I knew that I was leading the race, and that basically it's just a matter of, you know, me racing against myself. Going into then now the burpee broad jumps is kind of where I think my race started to shift a little bit, where the burpee broad jumps, I think the burpee broad jumps is one of the stations where I can clean up my technique. And in past Hyroxes, I've been able to kind of maybe slide away with some of my form. And now Hyrox is getting very specific. Like your feet have to be perfectly square before you jump. Like if one foot's in front of the other, you get penalties and things of that sort. So the burpees is one spot where it's very like they're high. They're judging the form at a high level. And at that stage, I was still leading, but I felt like my form was starting to break down, which then caused me to go slower. And typically in Hyrox, I think I've done the burpee broad jumps in anywhere from 2 minutes to 2:30, but this time it was closer to like 3.5 minutes. So the lead that I had going into the burpee broad jumps definitely started to get shrunken, and the people that were behind me were like, they were starting to catch up. And I think that station definitely was like the start of my body starting to fatigue, and also like my mental was just like, oh, like damn, like I lost time there, you know? And then going into the next run, I actually surprisingly still hit like I think it was like 4 minutes flat, which after burpee broad jumps isn't awful. It definitely can be improved in terms of the run. That was the, at that point, the 5th run. But I felt like going into the rower, which is the 5th station, I still felt pretty strong and I was still leading. But I started to slowly feel a little bit of like cramps in my quads. At that point of the race, you obviously still have 3 more kilometers and there's still some massive strength segments left. And I felt relaxed on the rower. and I probably was a little too relaxed. Like there was like some clips of me like talking to my buddy Dan, who was just in my ear about like where I'm at in the race, what pace I'm on at that point. At that point, I was on sub 60-minute pace actually, and obviously knowing that is one thing. Being able to execute the rest of the race to then hit that time is obviously a completely different beast. Getting off the rower, I then got into the run, and I hit a decent run split. I think once again, probably like 3:55, 4 minutes in that range. I don't know the exact split there, but I've pretty much done unbroken farmer carries every time I've done solo Hyrox, which basically unbroken means that you just don't drop the kettlebells. And it's 200 meters, so it took me about 90 seconds. And your upper body is like swelled up after that. And then you're going into the last two runs, and then arguably two of the harder stations. The walking lunges, and then the wall balls. Going into the sandbag lunges, I knew that I was gonna have to really get deep into the pain cave. At that point during that run, I already started feeling the quads starting to cramp, which was a little bit discouraging because when you do think about walking lunges, like it's a quad dominant movement, and obviously I had an understanding that like, damn, if my quads are already cramping while running, like what's it gonna feel like during the lunges, you know? And during the run right prior to that, like my quads were already starting to cramp, and I knew that like it was gonna be a challenge for me to like really go through that station fast, and it's 100 meters, so it's like it's one of those things where it's already a challenge. Then when you're dealing with like muscle cramps in the quad specifically, it was definitely a moment where I just like I knew that it wasn't gonna feel good. Like I was gonna enter the pain cave during that station. But at this point I was still leading coming into the sandbag lunges, but I kind of knew that like the pace that I was on the lunges wasn't that fast. Like I was like gathering my foot every time instead of like kind of just like flowing through the lunge. I think I got through the first 25 meters, I was still in first, but then I kind of heard other people coming and people cheering for them as well, and like I kind of knew that like, damn, like that lead that I had was definitely getting dwindled. And there's obviously a sense of like discouragement, but then also like I came into the lunges at first and I left in third place. And I knew that I was like, all right, I could find some time to kind of catch back up to these guys on the run. So I got done with the lunges, I drank a little bit of water, and I got right into the run. And I saw my buddy Donnie right in front of me. He was probably like 15 meters in front of me, and every lap I was like shaving the distance down. And honestly, I could have probably passed him if I wanted to exert more energy on the run, but let me give it a little rest. My mouth be getting dry talking this much, bruh. You're dealing with body cramps and aches, and at that point everyone pretty much is, right? Like you're deep into the race and it's not gonna feel comfortable, it's not gonna feel good. But the thing I was telling myself was just like, you just have one more run. Putting all of that like energy and all that focus on these different distances and other distances, but putting all that energy into just this 1 kilometer was pretty much all I was thinking about. And obviously also at that point I was like, I had gotten past, so there was a piece of me that was just like, put your energy into this next interval and put yourself back into the game. And that's why I think like I just wasn't really distracted by anything. Like I was breathing really heavy and I was definitely like in it, but my mindset was more just like, hey, be really present where you're at, get to the wall balls, and let the rest kind of figure it out on its own. Low-key, I was like, all right, I don't see the guy in first. Like he's probably on the wall balls already. But I was like, oh, yo, like if I just stay on Donnie's hip and then me and him are running together into the wall balls, then it's just a matter of who can complete 100 wall balls faster. My strategy going into wall balls is 4 sets of 25. I try to stick with that kind of cadence because in my simulation in training, like it's kind of been something that's worked with me. I was able to do 2 sets of 25, so I got to 50. And I think at this point, Donnie might have been like a couple wall balls ahead of me, like when we first started. So when we got to 50, I think I then passed him because he took a couple extra breaks. Like he might have been at like 46 and I might have been at 50. And at that point, you're halfway there. It was literally me just like, I couldn't get 25 reps for the third and fourth set, but I was just trying to thug it out. Like I was getting 12 and then I would get like 13 and then I was like trickling in. And I was like still in ahead of Donnie, but I knew that the guy that was in first place, like he was maybe 25 wall balls ahead. So I more than likely wasn't gonna pass him. And I remember Dan Churchill was like right behind me and he was like, anytime I would rest, he'd be like, he'd just be in my ear about like, if you want sub 65, like you basically have to, like you have to pick up the ball. He was in just encouraging me and also telling me like, yo, like the dude next to you is only a couple wall balls behind. And it just, it kind of just let me refocus and just get back into the game. And sometimes when you're resting like that, it's easy to feel sorry for yourself. You're like, yo, like, oh my God, it's like my heart rate's through the roof. At that point, I looked at my watch. I think my heart rate was in like the 185, 188. Like it was really high. And you're almost pushing your body to the red line. Like you're taking it to the threshold that you don't really replicate in training. And at that point, I got down to like the last 20. And then I was just trying to see if I can get 20 in a row and I couldn't. I think I was at like, I forget exactly where I was. Maybe there was like 17 or 18 left, and then I just try to do all of them without stopping. And obviously, as you get to the final 10 and you're in the single digits, like at that point, it's all just grit. You're just literally muscling any ounce of energy that you have to finish. And then, but by the time I saw 98, then I saw 99, and then there's that last wall ball, and then you hit 100, and at that point, the finish line is 5 meters away, and you cross the finish line, and you live with the result of the effort that you gave that day. And for me, that ended up being third overall, first in my age group. The heat that we were in was definitely a little slower, but I think overall, in terms of like the race experience and me even just going back to memory lane of every one of the movements, like I'm satisfied with the effort, but I know that there's room to improve.